Hey everybody, welcome back. By now, you know that we at Affair Recovery are committed to helping people heal as individuals and couples. But the question is, how do you know if it's worth the effort and the pain and the commitment to pursue reconciliation and restoration of a marriage? Almost weekly, I get asked a question that goes something like this. How do I know it's worth all the effort of working things out? And when is it best just to cut your losses and move on? Just do a quick search and you'll find all kinds of reasons, but you start to find some common themes like control and abuse, the mistreatment of children, addictions and affairs. It's just some of the most common. But for the purposes of today, we're going to focus mostly on sexual addiction and affairs. The betrayal of a marriage is no small matter. And surviving infidelity is not easy, nor is it for the faint of heart. In fact, for many, the pain caused by infidelity is the most devastating and painful event in their life. However, leaving a marriage after an affair just to escape the pain or the shame and the loss of self-respect is not always the answer, nor is it necessarily the easier option. It is possible that in this really strange way, the crisis created by infidelity may actually provide the necessary environment for healthy change. There's an old saying that goes, those who fail to learn from their past mistakes are destined to repeat them. And it is certainly true. There's no action that either spouse could have committed which could justify any of the reasons that people typically give for an affair at the beginning of recovery. But at the same time, no person is without mistakes. And please don't take what I just said and go verbally beat your spouse with it. This is about looking at your own personal issues and struggles and not at your mate's. I believe that anytime we get triggered, that trigger is a signal that we have work to do. You probably heard Rick say at least once that all of us arrive in a marriage with our own personal baggage. And unlike airlines, our personal baggage will never get lost in transit. It will always arrive at our next relationship, our next destination, if you will. Before abandoning ship, though, we recommend discovering the nature of your own personal baggage and how it has contributed to the issues and problems in your life and in your marriage. This is a key process in surviving infidelity. The answers that each of you discover may well provide motivations for reconciling your marriage and recommitting to it. And I want to remind you that bad choices cause affairs, not bad people or bad marriages. So let's talk for a minute about some factors to consider in marital restoration. The unfaithful spouse needs to display a strong willingness to do whatever it takes to move towards health and recovery. If there's not a willingness to be honest or transparent and to stop the hurtful behaviors or inappropriate relationships, then saving the marriage becomes questionable. And at that point, we suggest that the betrayed spouse give the unfaithful spouse just this really short window or short season to see if they can come back to their true self, to the marriage and to their senses. But if they don't, then it's probably time to move on. An unfaithful partner needs to be truly grieved over what they've done and the pain that they've caused first to themselves and to the relationship, and also, importantly, to the spouse. Because without remorse, surviving infidelity still is not hopeless, but it becomes much more difficult in the long run. Another thing to consider is timing. It's difficult to make sound decisions at times when we're so emotional. At the initial impact of the revelation of betrayal, it's difficult to know if it's worth the effort of saving the marriage. The pain and the trauma for both partners can override reason, especially when you're dealing with infidelity. And in addition, it's impossible to tell how one's mate is going to respond over that first 12-month or so period. The betrayed spouse may find themselves on this emotional roller coaster that we talk about and that you probably have experienced. And that can go on for months. And sometimes it will go on for even a couple of years. However long it is, it's going to feel like eternity to the couple going through these ups and downs. It's true that the ride does get less intense as the process goes on and you're doing the work. But in the beginning, it can feel like it's going to go on forever. The more time you allow for emotions to subside and reason to rule, the better chances of making sound decisions after an affair. It's incredibly important that both of you receive good, proper support, where both of you feel cared for and get good direction. To simply gut it out on your own, it'll not only exhaust you and all of your mental and emotional resources, but it'll cause most likely even more damage along the way. You'll end up continuing to traumatize each other without the proper help. Another one of the most simple factors in deciding to reconcile a marriage is past history. If at least 10% of the marital history was positive, then the probabilities of a positive outcome and surviving infidelity will increase significantly. Of course, it may be difficult to be honest about the marital history. The pain of the betrayal may cloud judgment when considering the positives in the past. And often, all the betrayed spouse can see are the failures, not the successes. And at the same time, it's not uncommon at all for the unfaithful spouse to rewrite the marital history and to eliminate all the good times in order just to justify their actions. I strongly would encourage both parties to honestly try to look at reality. Do a relationship timeline, starting with the day you met, and look at all the positives on one side of the sheet of paper or papers and the negatives on the other, and see, number one, if you don't start looking at the things with the same set of books, and that you both begin to see that there are more positives in the relationships. It can be a source of encouragement for both of you to do something like that. There are other common reasons for trying to salvage a marriage, such as finances and children and a shared history. In reality, one of the main reasons for saving a marriage is because it's worth it, not only for yourself, but also for others in your community and your family. At the moment of revelation of an affair, though, there's this often little or no perceived value in the marriage. But it is worth it, I promise you. Whether you see it or not right then and there is most likely some value in saving your marriage. But there is this one reason I think that trumps all others. When God tells you the path you need to take, then it doesn't need to make sense to us. It's our belief at Affair Recovery that if there's a sense from God or Spirit or the universe or your higher power or your higher self, whatever you think of when you think of God, if God says to work on your marriage, then I encourage you to work on your marriage. In our private practices of marriage and infidelity-specific counseling, Rick and John and Leslie and I, Lee, Lisa, we frequently ask clients, what is God telling you? Interestingly, many of them will have some sense of what they believe they're being told. And in those situations, we believe that following that path is most important. If you don't have a clear answer, then wait. Wait until you do so. And oftentimes that's what I hear. God is just telling me to wait. Spirit is just telling me to wait. Then I would encourage you just to wait until you're clear about what to do next. I just want to say again, although very possible, surviving infidelity is a very long journey, but it can be a promising one. And today I've only begun to touch on some of the issues when considering saving your marriage. If you and your spouse need help with how to begin the recovery journey, what I really hope you'll do is consider the EMS online course. It's a 13-week infidelity-specific curriculum that's designed for couples dealing with betrayal. where the goal is healing through transparency, through empathy development, and personal responsibility. So I'd encourage you to check out the details of that at the Affair Recovery website under the Programs tab. And even if you're not clear yet, a lot of times working through that process helps gain clarity for both of you. And then you can look at each other and say, we did everything we know to do, if in the hopefully unlikely event that you decide to end the marriage. So hopefully this gives the two of you something to think about and possibly even talk about with one another. Check out the course details on the Affair Recovery website. It is always a pleasure and honor to be with you guys. I'll be back again next week. But in the meantime, we at Affair Recovery pray that you're all healthy and safe and taking care of one another as best you can. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you next week.